Hi, I'm Justin Warren. I'm founder and chief analyst at Pivot 9 Consulting, and joining me here is Kunal Kapoor, director of product management at Pure Storage. So, welcome.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have this conversation with you, Justin. Thank you.
So
Thanks for the time.
I wanted to talk about modern data experience is the tagline that Pure is using. I wanted to sort of talk about the modern data experience in multiple different facets. There's been a lot of effort in the last 10, 12 years around cloud, but we also have on-site data. And I think a lot of enterprises have come to the realization that not everything is going to go to cloud. A lot of things are going to stay on site, but we're also going to have multiple clouds. So we're going to have to manage data in multiple different locations. And as a data and storage company, I'm interested to hear your perspective on that. What are you hearing from customers at the moment about how they are tackling this sort of problem?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something top of mind for our customers, which means top of mind, what we wanted to solve. And I think the biggest admittance of a hybrid world that we've seen from not only from vendors like us, Pure Storage, but also from the hyperscalers. If you think about Amazon with Outposts and Google with Anthos, and Microsoft has had Azure stack for a while now, there is an admittance that there is going to be a hybrid world. Some applications are just better suited to run on-prem. Some applications are better suited to run in the cloud. So it is going to be a hybrid world. So we recognize that. Obviously, the hyperscaler platforms recognize that. We wanted to kind of take a step back and try to understand what our customers are trying to do when they are trying to deploy in this hybrid world. And what we heard very loud and clear from a lot of our customers was when you're thinking about the cloud, probably using cloud as secondary storage target as the kind of the step one in your cloud journey kind of makes sense. It becomes like that, almost that easy button of how you can use the cloud economics for secondary storage. So we wanted to then try to provide a solution that is very similar to our on-prem, or almost the same as our on-prem solution, but running natively in the cloud. So we then designed our solutions kind of around that design goal, that we wanted to provide the same capabilities, the same services, the same. So to your point, the consistency. It shouldn't matter that if your application is running on-prem or your application is running in the cloud, it should have the same experience and it should have the same capabilities. So that's what we've embarked on a journey as Pure on really trying to address that. That use case and that problem set that the customers are going after. And that same, and that consistent data experience or that modern data experience we're talking about is, it doesn't matter where your data is. It can be on-prem, it can be on the cloud, it can actually move from on-prem to the cloud or back from cloud on-prem. But you should have no compromise on anything around that mobility of that data.
Yeah, and I think a lot of technical teams in particular tend to focus a lot on the actual technology. They're technologists, they love technology. But it's not actually about the technology when it comes to enterprise data management, particularly at larger companies, because you've got a lot of different places, you've got lots of different data. So that consistency of experience is actually more about operational flexibility.
Absolutely, and you've hit the nail on the head, because a lot of customers, when they talk to us about I have my data on-prem today and it's running on this particular technology stack, and it shouldn't matter. But what I want to make sure is when I move that data around, be it to one cloud or multiple clouds, I don't need to change my operational practices. Everything should just remain consistent. And that's what we took up as a challenge, that how can we provide that consistency of experience, be it like the consistent API model, or just if they're deployed in Kubernetes or maybe VMware vVols, how can now that portability help them go anywhere that they need to, wherever their business needs to, and we can still provide that same experience. But you're spot on. I mean, I think the consistency aspect, really not talking about technology and products, but really talking about, doesn't matter where I am, I should get that same experience.
And I think that's what a lot of, particularly CIOs, are starting to understand about cloud. So cloud is 10, 15 years old now. And I always like to say that cloud is not a location, it's a state of mind. It's an operating model. And I think a lot of the CIOs are realizing that actually what we want is we want the cloud-like experience. We want to bring that back on site. Another saying, a favorite saying of mine, is that AWS is a great place to fail and an expensive place to succeed. But that's part of the point. You want to be running experiments in an elastic pay-as-you-go type service, because then I can run lots of different experiments, and the ones that work, I keep doing them. The ones that don't, I turn them off straight away. I don't have to sell a whole bunch of pizza box servers like we used to do back in the day. But if I have a success, I think what a lot of companies are starting to discover is that when something succeeds really well in cloud, that starts to get quite expensive.
Yes.
And for a lot of these workloads, they're pretty predictable. You don't actually have that seasonality and that fluctuation that requires the elasticity of cloud.
Right.
You want to bring those back on site.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you've done the experiment using a particular data storage or data management service, you actually want to bring that back on site and have that same experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing I heard from a customer, Justin, which I loved was every time we used to go into a customer meeting and you have a CIO in the room, they talked about cloud first, have a cloud first strategy. I heard from this customer saying, we have a cloud smart strategy. I was like, wow, that's interesting. What do you mean by a cloud smart strategy? Exactly hitting to the points you just mentioned. They're like, we're going to use cloud where it makes sense for us because we want to use the agility and economics of the cloud. Say we are doing a test and dev environment. The cloud is the best platform for that. I can run my tests. When I'm done with those tests, I can spin those resources down. I'm not paying for a CapEx expense as a perpetual thing. I ran my test. It ran successfully. I was able to kind of figure out what the parameters of that deployment is. Now, I can, after that is complete, I can make a decision that is it better for this application in the long term to run in the cloud, or should it bring it back on-prem? So when he said cloud smart, he meant that we're going to do a TCO due diligence, that the total cost of ownership is going to be really important. We're going to do all of our test and dev probably in the cloud because it just makes sense from an economics and agility standpoint. But when it comes to putting things in production, we are going to be very smart about it. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of enterprises change in their mindset of thinking about cloud as not, to your point, not only a destination, but just another platform which they can leverage for many different use cases, but that may not be the final resting place for that use case or for that application. It could end up at a very different place because of the cost analysis, the business needs, or just the application needs. So I think that's what is kind of now getting more and more something that our customers are thinking about a lot more. Before, I felt everyone was like, let's just go head into the cloud and let's just put everything in the cloud. That mindset I've seen absolutely change. And again, I go back to when the hyperscalers have introduced solutions for on-prem is an admittance of that. That there's going to be this kind of, where some applications are just going to be better suited to run one place or the other.
Yeah, and for a long time, AWS in particular was very adamant that all workloads are going to go to the cloud. Eventually. It's like, well, maybe. Eventually is actually a lot longer than what people realize, I think. And that may still be true, but we still run mainframe. So if it's going to take us 30 years to move everything into cloud, it's like, well, what do we do in the meantime? And I think that's something that a lot of organizations are actually wrestling with. Many of them are only just starting down this cloud journey, as it's called. So getting used to the idea of, well, how do I actually change some of my workloads? Which ones am I going to re-architect and completely redesign to work in a cloud way, particularly with something like containers and Kubernetes. That's still really brand new. It feels old for us in technology because we've been dealing with it for a while, but people who are running applications that run their business, these are important. They need them to be fast, predictable, and I just can't rewrite that overnight. So with the customers that you deal with, I mean, Pure is famous for being very, very fast and nice, predictable storage. So the kinds of companies who buy Pure Storage, what are they looking at when they're investigating cloud? What are some of the questions that they raise?
So I think the biggest, the biggest question we always get right out of the gate is cost. They're like, yes, we love the Pure experience on-prem, all the advanced data services and all the capabilities you're able to provide. And as a storage company, we've always prided ourselves with simplicity. Everything that you do on Pure, be it a product or a feature that you use, very, very simple to use. So we know we've set the bar very high around simplicity, but we know the cloud is very simple too. So when we took our capabilities to the cloud and we offered them in the cloud, we know the simplicity thing kind of came along with that because our products are very simple. But the cost aspect was very important. That our customers were like, yes, I want that, that experience of the Purity software and the Pure experience in the cloud, but I want it in a cost-effective way that doesn't mean that it's way more expensive than cloud-native storage. And that's what we were able to provide to those customers, that if you have an application or a business need to move to the cloud, now you can move to a very familiar storage stack which gives you all the advanced data services. The other important thing is that when you look at the cloud doesn't have any storage efficiency. It's kind of inherently built in, like thin provisioning and dedupe and compression. And that starts becoming, to your point earlier when you're talking about at scale, that starts really adding up. You always hear about customers like, I started with 50, 100 terabytes. Yeah, it was pretty good. But now when I've got to 500 terabytes or petabyte, it's getting really, really expensive. And the reason is, two things. They have to first work with obviously no storage efficiencies, so there is no dedupe, no compression. Second is they have to change their operational practices because they don't even have something as simple as thin provisioning. So they have to almost change the way they provision storage, that I'm only going to provision how much I need. And we wanted to just, the things that are so common on-prem, things like thin provisioning, dedupe, and compression, we wanted to bring all of that goodness into the cloud and make that a platform that is a lot more efficient and effective for our customers. So I think that's where we kind of thought about from a product perspective how we can help our customers. Now to your question of where are we seeing customers adopt our platform is initially we are seeing customers in the disaster recovery use case where they're using cloud as a secondary or a DR target and just ability to remove that secondary data center. It's a CapEx expense and they just don't need to have that and use cloud as the destination for that. And the second one is the test and dev that we hinted at. We just introduced a product, Cloud Block Store, which basically takes the Purity software that runs on the flash array. Now it runs natively in AWS, and we are looking to port that into other clouds like Azure and GCP in the future. That gives customers the same experience from on-prem to the cloud. So what we found is for the test and dev use case, snapshots was really important. And again, it's very simple stuff. Things that you and I have been talking about for like 20 years, space-efficient snapshots, instantaneous snapshots. But they don't exist in the cloud. And we were able to give our customers that experience. So like one of my customers told me, that test and dev use case now is tangible and actually functional with the technology you brought with instantaneous snapshots, which are cost effective and performant. And I can get sometimes 60:1 data reduction because it's massive amount of dedupe that we can get across primary data and snapshots. And they're like, that's awesome. Like we can actually now set up a test and dev environment in an effective, performant way, and it just works. So we've been very excited with, when we've put this technology and product in our customers' hands that some of the use cases we kind of had a hunch in what would be the ones they would use for, but we've been actually shocked with some of the other use cases customers have come to us for. That I would love to spin up a test and dev environment there and I would do my TCO and then I may decide to bring it back on-prem. You can just replicate that data back on-prem. It's so easy. I can just move things around as my business application needs change. And we've been like blown away by all the different things. And I think we're just at the start. We've just introduced this product a few months ago, so I feel like there's a lot we are going to learn from our customers and enhance in our products to really kind of hit all the business needs, application needs they have.
And you mentioned consistency and simplicity.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to highlight about the way Pure has actually developed these products is this is a brand new product which is designed to be cloud native, but it also talks to Pure One. So that's this piece of software that you have that layers over the top of all of your different products, and it's compatible with every single product line, which is a pretty amazing kind of engineering achievement, really. But that Pure One layer that you have, it's again talking about the operational management of the experience and having the same consistent experience for all of the different product lines. There's a lot of work that goes into making that A, functional, and B, actually a simple experience. And that's the kind of engineering that Pure puts into it. Having that Pure One interface that runs across all of the products, no matter where they are, and the fact that you've committed to doing that in all of the new products that come out as well, I think that helps customers actually understand how to manage things, particularly when we start talking about cloud scale, the scope and scale of these systems. And you did touch on that as well, of just the management challenge of all of these different workloads, and we throw in some Kubernetes and that just makes things explode with complexity. Having that nice layer over the top that just, you've done all of the heavy lifting for me, you've done the hard work of engineering it, so that for me it's actually a really simple experience. All the intelligence is baked into the system. Pure One is a cloud native based solution. It has AI and ML, which is pretty hot at the moment. So that sort of additional smarts that's baked into that system, it makes my job just much easier. And I don't have to actually worry about the technology side of things so much. I can worry about running my business.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of our customers, what they told us is like, say I have a fleet. And what we wanted to attack from a perspective was we wanted to make the technology stack hybrid in nature. Same experience on-prem and the cloud, but it has to be that your management experience has to be consistent. Even your commercial experience has to be consistent. So with Pure One, now you can see your entire fleet, like you have your flash arrays or flash blades on-prem, you have your cloud block store in the cloud, you can see that all through this one control plane and manage it that way. But even if, from a commercial perspective, you and I know, when we talk to customers, everyone's in a different journey to the cloud. Like, I think I'm going to be there in 6 months, I'm going to be there in 1 year, but I don't want to make this big investment on-prem, because what if I make that investment and now I do need to move to the cloud, and now I'm kind of stuck with this CapEx expense. So we introduced Pure as a service as a unified subscription, which allows customers to make an investment on-prem if they need to, and they can use any of that capacity that is part of that subscription for the cloud anytime during that term of that subscription. So when they make an investment day one with Pure, they've already de-risked that investment. Doesn't matter, they are ready for the cloud in 3 months, in 6 months, a year, we are ready with them, because we have the products and we have the commercial vehicle to go with it to allow them to move from on-prem to the cloud. So I really believe that when we are providing these solutions to our customers, it's never only about the technology stack. Exactly what you said. It's about consistency of management. It's consistency around the commercial vehicles. Because if you give them that end-to-end experience, then it makes it easy for customers to not worry about where are they today, on-prem or the cloud. They know that everything around the ecosystem-wise just works. And yes, you're right about the Kubernetes one. I mean, the one thing I'm very excited about containers and Kubernetes in general is that it makes everything portable. It doesn't matter, as someone who's working in containers, you shouldn't care. Like, it's running on-prem, it's running in one cloud, multi-cloud, because it's really, at the end of the day, not even connected to the storage. And if you are able to do that important step where you're able to, some applications, I agree with you, cannot be re-architected, but some that can be, just makes that portability way, way simpler. So we think we have the storage stack that really helps enable that consistency. But if you've done some due diligence on the application side and maybe made some changes there and containerized it, your life becomes so much simpler.
Yeah, and that really does tie through those threads of I want to be able to preserve optionality, as we refer to it at Pivot 9. So you have Kubernetes, which gives you the flexibility of workload placement. I don't care which cloud it runs in, because it's just Kubernetes. It runs wherever you want it to.
And I'll add one important thing. A lot of our customers tell us is that if I have to take provision to native storage, I'm kind of embedded with that native storage. Now, if I have to pull out, first, I may have designed my applications around all the idiosyncrasies of how that native storage works. And if I need to pull that application out and move it to on-prem or to another cloud, it's hard work. You have to do kind of, out of the natural kind of things of doing application level replication or movement of data. In our case, the way we build Cloud Block Store, think about it like an abstraction layer on top of native cloud storage. So you're writing to the Purity software. So if you ever need to move that application from AWS to Azure or move it back on-prem, you're just moving your data with that abstraction layer. You don't have to be embedded into, you don't even know you're talking to native cloud storage on the back end. We've done all the heavy lifting of figuring out the right architecture to give you all the data services and the things that you need, but you get that flexibility and optionality, as you said, that I can move it anywhere, because I'm just talking to Pure. I'm not talking to anything on the underlying storage.
And the pace of change today just means that I need to be able to make those choices. I need to be able to change my mind. I want to be able to say, look, I'm going to try this for 2 or 3 months, and then I will learn things, and this will, if it works, fabulous, do more of it. If it isn't working there, can I change my mind and move it to another cloud, move it back on site? And I want it to be the same consistent experience. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more of from IT executives, is they're going to want to be able to change their mind, run experiments, just do things quickly, but then not paint yourself into a particular corner where you find out, unfortunately, 8 or 9 months later that, oh, I've made a terrible mistake.
And you shouldn't, ever end up in that place that you made that terrible mistake and you're like, I have to completely re-architect or change everything to be able to now make that right. You should be able to do that in a fairly seamless fashion, and that's what we are hoping that technologies like Cloud Block Store will help customers do that, because our customers value the all the capabilities we've given them on-prem. If we can give the same experience in the cloud and let them have that flexibility of ending up anywhere, wherever their business needs are, just gives that kind of, as one of my customers said, I can sleep at night better knowing that I'm not locked in. So, because the one thing our customers always told us on-prem, the one thing we are super concerned about is we are locked in. And if you think about it, when you are writing to native cloud storage, you're kind of locked in. So that's what we are trying to provide, is a solution which allows that, doesn't have to have that lock-in, and you have that flexibility that you can move anywhere you need to.
Maintains customer choice and helps them sleep well at night. What's not to like?
I know, I love that. And we all love that.
So thank you, Kamal. How can people find you if they want to talk to you more about anything?
So I'm a director of product management at pure. I run most of the cloud data services that we've built here. The easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn, or just reach out to me by email. That's the easiest way to reach out to me.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I've been Justin Warren. If you want to talk to me about any of these topics, you can find me online at JP Warren, or just find the website as pivot9.com.